Welcome back, listeners. It's another episode of Arts and Crimes. It's early morning, and I woke up 15 minutes ago. But
Arts and Crimes in the AM.
It's gonna be great. I'm your host, Kelly.
And I'm Brandon.
Listen, because this is... Oh, I'm Josh. Because this is first thing in the morning, we should have, like, shock jock names.
Okay.
I'm the Spurge.
I'm here.
Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy. Every morning coming at ya. Wonder Boy and the Spurge. The special guest here.
Yeah, that feels accurate.
The Spurge sounds gross. I want to change mine.
Okay. I'll go back in and edit it to whatever you choose later.
Okay.
Oh, man. Wonder Man. I should have gone.
Wonder Man.
Okay. So, guess what, team? We had our website up last week, and we actually got some listener mail.
Oh, man.
I'm so excited.
I meant to ask if we were doing our mail. Is it going to be at the beginning
first or the
section,
end?
or is it at the end segment?
I don't know. I mean, I said it right now.
You did.
Yeah, maybe we should do it at the beginning, and then next time, if we ever get any more, we could do it at the end and then decide how we like it.
All right. Special, one time.
This is our very first one.
First of the episode.
We only ever... This is the first one, and it's only one. So I said on the episode, or on the website, that if the person would like to remain anonymous, to let us know, and we'll make up a name for them.
Okay.
And so this person would like to remain anonymous. So Josh, would you like to come up with a name for them?
You got it, man.
Yes.
Or do you?
Grendel.
Grendel it is.
Grendel it is.
Wait, is Grendel the first or the last name, or is it a mononym?
What's the whole name?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Grendel sounded good enough, I thought. But Grendel Hopsmeyer.
Hopsmeyer.
Okay. Oh, that's good. I like it.
I like it. Okay, so we're reading our mail from Grendel Hopsmeyer today. And it says, I may or may not have been chatting with a certain podcast co-host about how I saw an older man driving around a brand new shiny Corvette with one of those new all-black Utah license plates with the vanity Booyah. And I commented that it's unfortunate that this guy either, one, doesn't have anyone in his life to tell him that he was that was a mistake, or two, he is unable/unwilling to listen to anyone in his life who would have told him that it was a mistake. However, and I feel like you'll like this part, Brandon.
Okay.
However, I do think, almost regardless of what kind of car you put it on, having the vanity plates D's nuts would be hilarious and borderline artistic. In keeping with your theme of art and crimes, I feel like vanity plates are right on the fine line between being a form of art and, in some cases, feeling criminal. Could you share the best and worst vanity license plates you've ever seen, and or do some of your crack research on some amazing/terrible ones? Good news, team. I didn't do any research.
Did you read this before we started the pod?
I did.
Okay.
But Josh did research.
Oh.
So...
I'm glad
because I told him
somebody did.
Yeah. But I did think that my input would be that Josh and I, and so I've taught some friends, play a game where when we see a vanity plate, we try and read it as absolutely incorrectly as we possibly can, because we don't like vanity plates.
I think that's a Boyle's trait.
Yeah, you do it too?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got to be a Boyle's trait.
If I can figure out a way to say it to make it sound stupider than it already is, yes, definitely.
That's how it's said, yeah. And I do it with, like, if you can make something out of regular license plates, but especially vanity plates. Like, literally last night, we were in the car, and there was one, and it was a black Jeep, and his vanity plate was BLK... BLC... JEEP.
Yeah.
So it's just black Jeep.
Okay.
Which we were like, thank you for the clarification. And so I read it as, blah, a Jeep. And I bet that's what he meant.
All right.
What's
So,
your crack research?
Josh, you've done the research.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, I'm trying to find. I will regularly send pictures of license plates I see to Michaela and make a joke about them. So I'm trying to find one of the first ones I ever sent.
Use your your AI to search license plates.
I did, and there's too many. It's got like a dozen. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay. So I'll talk about the general research, but when we talked about the worst ones we've ever seen, two spring to mind. One was a like mid-size SUV, and the license plate was MILFmobile. And I was like, all right, you go, lady. Anyway, the worst one by far I've ever seen. This was like, hold on, I think this is 12 years ago or something, and I still have the picture. It was a white panel van, and the license plate was the Perv. THPURV. So maybe it was like a business, like it's supposed to be like Pure V or something. I don't know. But I said to Michaela, and I was like, don't get into a panel van with the vanity plate.
The Perv. Oh, man.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I almost respect that.
Leaning
like,
into it.
They just like went all for it. Like, got a van. I'm imagining a husband forced to buy a van for his family.
That you didn't want.
And he just didn't want it at all, so he got that license plate as the joke.
And his
So
wife
every
was so
day
mad.
when he has to get into it, he just chuckles to himself. The perv. Okay, let's get in the van, guys.
Oh, man. So, yeah, vanity plates. I feel like most of the time those are a crime.
Yeah.
That's funny. I think what I see often is if you have a Tesla, you have a vanity plate.
Yeah.
And often it's some kind of electric thing like kilowatt or whatever. It's great.
Yeah. There are like patterns. I feel like Utah has more vanity plates than most places. I don't know. I haven't lived a lot of places. It certainly has more than Oregon.
Yeah.
Maybe that's changed in the decades since I lived there. But there's just a lot of vanity plates here. You see them all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's several patterns. One is electric car, specifically a Tesla, with something referencing how it's a Tesla. You see that all the time. The other most common one, I feel like, is you just see like something about the car, like black Jeep.
Mm-hmm. Or the name of the owner.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be like Judy's car, or like, somebody's Bimmer, or whatever.
Yeah.
And every time I see one of those, I want to like roll down the window and be like, Judy, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
And just see if they pretend to remember me.
Oh, so fantastic.
One time Michaela and I were driving, and I embarrassed her really bad because I couldn't, it was a vanity plate, but I could not make it out. Like, I didn't know what it meant. Mm-hmm. And we were driving behind him for like 5 minutes probably. And so we pulled up to a stoplight, and I went into the other lane to pull up next to me. And then I was like, roll down your window. And it was some lady and her kid. And she rolled it down, and I go, what does your vanity plate mean? And she goes, it's my last name backwards. Like, so like, she's gotten that question before, and she's like, why did we do this? Nobody gets it. It was so funny.
My last name backwards.
Yeah.
What a wild
Did they already
choice.
somebody already had their last name forwards?
It must have been.
Yeah.
I don't even remember
Man,
what it was now.
my name backwards. I've always hated it. Ned Narb.
I kind of like it. At least it's a thing.
Yeah, that's our next listener that wants to be anonymous.
Ned
Ned Narb.
Okay, so here's the research very
Okay.
quickly. Because we spent a lot of time on this email for Galactus. What was it?
Grendel.
Grendel.
Hopsmeyer.
Grendy.
Grendy Hopsmeyer.
Yeah.
So
Grendy and I are tight.
here's the
Okay.
reason stuff gets denied. It can be a drug reference, age, like discriminating against age, a sexual reference, already issued, or it could be vulgar, derogatory, profane, or obscene. So what's funny is there's less rejections than I would guess. Like over the state of Utah in 1 year, they typically issue like 400 because they reject like 400 for whatever reason, and they reject about 400 more that were already issued. So that's just somebody's asking for something that someone
That's
already
already
has. So some of the ones that were rejected were ICUP, Sexy Lady, Gyat, and Shoddy.
Oh.
And then let's see. These Nuts obviously was denied as well. STD 22. I don't know why. Someone was like, when they went to the doctor and they got that 20-second one, they were like, I need to memorialize this somehow. And then some are denied due to public welfare, which is references to weapons and crime. So somebody was like, it'd be hilarious license plate if we did genocide. That would be a good one.
So terrible.
Along with murder, bomber, shooter, and weapons. So...
Jeez. Yikes. I feel like the only good thing about letting them do that is the DMV could be like, police, go get this guy.
Yeah, they put on Mark. They're like, by the way, he put shooter on a government form. Maybe you should keep an eye on him. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I bet that's on purpose.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, put whatever you want there. We won't keep track of it or anything.
Yeah, we don't keep records. Okay, bye.
Anyway, so I would definitely put them more into the crime category than the art category for the most part.
Yeah, I would agree with that, for sure. Well, thank you, Grundy. That was great. And thank you for being our first listener question.
And to all our other listeners, that could have been you. If you'd only been quick on the trigger like Grundy.
All right, so... How was your guys' week?
It's good.
Okay, then let's do shotgun style week review. You've got 30 seconds.
Oh, dang. During the last 2 weeks, I watched The Dark Crystal with my daughter.
Ooh.
Which was a slightly stressful because I wanted her to like it. But I was worried because it's from 1982 and kind of goofy. But she liked it overall. She gave me some good... positive feedback about it. We did laugh about the 1982 graphics and on some of the stuff, but I was also a little bit worried that I wasn't going to like it because...
You haven't watched it since 1982?
Well, I
know you watched it since then because I watched it as a kid.
Yeah, we watched it. Yeah, we watched it as kids. Mom's mom had like a VHS copy, I think, is where the first time I remember watching it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but I worried that I was going to watch it and then not like it because that has happened to a number of things from my childhood. Most notably, Thundercats. Yeah, when Cartoon Network had Thundercats coming back out and they hyped it for like months and I was so excited and I watched like 5 minutes of the first episode and I was like, this is so dumb. Like, the story sucks, animation is blah, I'm out of here. Anyway, but Dark Crystal was good, and I felt like it really did live up to my memories. Actually, it was pretty cool. Like, I love that in 1982, we had this really strong female lead in Kira in the show, and like I just love like Jim Henson. Thank you for putting that in there, and it didn't feel like it was shoved in there for an agenda or anything. It just made sense in the story, and
it's just well written.
Yeah. So we actually like talked a little bit about this already. Kelly and I'm pointing at Kelly. Just letting Josh know who I
appreciate that. I've been back here with my eyes closed the whole time, trying to experience it as our listeners experience it.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe there's a crime that not many people know about how great the Dark Crystal is, and it's definitely artsy. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna host an episode on the Dark Crystal.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. So the reason I made it part of my weekly thing instead of just having it happen is in case, dear listener, you don't want spoilers, but you do want to listen to an episode about the Dark Crystal, you better get out there and watch it.
But if there are spoilers, it was made in 1982, so I think we're past the limit of, like, no spoilers.
40 years is the limit.
Yeah. Something like that. Okay, that's exciting. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, and now I've said it on air. It's a commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm really excited.
What about you, Josh?
I had a bunch of stuff happen, but now that we're talking about movies that we force our kids to watch, okay, this is something that I talked about with Michaela, and I'm curious your thoughts. I was talking about how generally when we watch a movie with our kids, like they choose the movie. And I was like, when we were kids, I don't feel like that was the case. Like we watched a lot of Westerns that no child would have chosen. And like some of them today, I'm like, oh, I have fond memories of that, right? But like, I'm sure that the millionth time we watched My Name's Nobody or whatever, I was like, can we watch something else? But like, that was just the vibe in our house was like, we have mostly adult movies and mom and dad choose the movies and we watch or we don't watch, right? But in my house, like the kids choose. And I realize that they will really throw a fit if mom and dad are like, we're watching something mom and dad want to watch. And so now sometimes I'm like doing it intentionally just so that they get exposed and also have the experience of not being able to choose everything. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it's about like sharing the company, not getting
yeah.
the film that you want.
And they still have the same choice of like,
Yeah.
hey, you can go, you got Legos and books and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Is that kind of how you remember?
Yeah, absolutely. I see this in a whole bunch of aspects of my life, actually, though. So mom and dad owned the TV. Like if we were watching anything and mom and dad wanted to watch something, they took over, right? Whatever we were watching was off.
Yeah.
They were watching was on. Like all kinds of things like that. And then now I see in my life, like I get home from work and maybe my kids are playing something on the PlayStation downstairs, and I'm like, man, when's it gonna be my turn? You know, and yeah, I mow the lawn, and yeah, the kids pick movies way more often than I do, and it has gotten me thinking. Like, I wonder, like, I learned to give control to mom and dad, and I kept that habit as I got older, and I give control to my kids. And I kind of am curious if, like, Lincoln as a dad is going to be like, we're watching what I want. This is my TV.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, he learned from me.
Alternates generations.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
That he gets control.
yeah.
And so when he's older, that's
He's gonna
still
stay in control.
the standard, yeah.
And be like, you should go mow the lawn. And so, I don't know.
Here's how you solve that problem. Don't have kids.
You cracked the
I've
code. You
really-
peeled back the whatever of reality.
fabric of reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And discover the structure underneath.
Yeah, which is I watch what I want when I want, as long as I'm home.
The other thing I think is different, though, is, like, Michaela and I have phones. So, like, and kids' movies generally are better, like, adults enjoy them more. So there's a lot of kids' movies that, as an adult, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is still fun, you know? Or shows, like Phineas and Ferb, for example. Right?
Yeah.
It's funny as an adult to watch.
Yeah.
So I also think that, like, we're fine with the kids watching because we're like, we'll just play on our phone.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that kind of sucks. So that's one
Yeah.
of the reasons that I'm trying to, like, do it differently. We don't do it a bunch, but every once in a while I'll just be like, hey, mom and dad are watching a mom and dad movie, and you guys can watch if you want, or you can go do something else. And they're like, nah, we hate it. And I'm like, well, tough, kids. So this week we watched The Fugitive. Okay, what's funny is The Fugitive.
It's got Harrison Ford, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
Harrison Ford.
And Tommy Lee Jones.
And Tommy Lee Jones.
I forgot he's in that.
In the most Tommy Lee Jones role there's ever been. He was born to play that role, quite literally. Anyway, so what's funny about The Fugitive is that my friend Tyler, his parents bought a DVD player way before anyone else had them. We had VHS. They had a DVD, but they didn't buy a bunch of DVDs. So I think they had like 3 or 4. I think they had Apollo 13, maybe. If The Fugitive for sure was one of them, and maybe like one other. If Tyler's listening, he can send in the other DVDs they had. But like they would rent DVDs. They didn't want to own them because they were expensive back then. Anyway, but yeah, so one of the few DVDs they had was The Fugitive, so I watched it 50 times as a kid, it feels like. We'd be over there and like, let's watch The Fugitive again, and then we'd make jokes about the one-armed man and stuff. Anyway, so I turned it on, and the kids just like ran off to their rooms, but one by one they filtered back, and by bedtime, all of them were sitting there engrossed in The Fugitive, and I was like, this is kind of like, it's not hyper violent or swears or anything like that, right? It's not terrible, but it was funny that like I think it must have been such a switch to be like, oh yeah, yesterday we were watching like Frozen, today we're watching The Fugitive. So it was funny. But what else is funny is their bedtime comes 20 minutes before the end of the movie, how it turned out, and I just sent them to bed, and they're like, no, how does it end? And I'm like, if you guys care, we'll rewind it tomorrow and finish it. And they never did ask how it ended, so. But it was pretty funny. So that was my week update.
It's amazing.
Way more than 30 seconds. I apologize.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Dear listeners, DVDs are media that had movies on them before streaming was what we normally consume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Netflix, but only one movie. And it was physical.
You were committed.
You could touch it.
Yeah.
And lick it.
Don't lick it, though.
Right.
We got in trouble for that.
You couldn't lick it. You could think about licking it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the explanatory note.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was stretching. It's still early in the morning. I didn't really do anything. I feel like my week check was, I was really excited that we got listener mail. I was in a work meeting and my phone was like, bring, and I was like, what is this garbage? And I was real excited. So that's fun. Okay.
Clearly.
Let's get to it, Potter.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it. That's his Snape voice.
We have. I don't. Every once in a while, I'll be like, "What do I usually say?" I don't know. Clearly.
It's just like a one word. It's just like a one word thing.
And then
obviously.
There's a little pause and Potter.
So yes. Today there's a secret woven in here that you're gonna have to guess at the end.
Oh man.
Because I know making you guys guess stuff.
Is the guess gonna be that none of it is a thing again?
Third time in a row.
Here's the good news about this one. Yes, the crime is unsolved, but everything I'm talking about is facts today. Nothing but facts on facts on facts. Okay?
That's how I like my sandwiches.
Yeah. So, to start out, we're going to build up the excitement with the discovery.
Okay.
Of?
A corpse. Mama, we're actually talking about...
It's just like an episode of Bones.
I know. It's so exciting.
Why did you choose Bones of all the possible shows about dead bodies?
They always start with a corpse.
It's just like an episode of Perry Mason. That one went out to Mom.
Yeah. All right. This is... Think back, because we were alive at this time.
Okay.
September 1991.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There was two hikers that were climbing in the Italian Alps. Do you know where we're going?
Oh,
yet?
they found Otzi.
Yeah, Otzi. Do you know?
I don't know what you're talking about. Good job, Josh. What?
Okay, we'll keep going and you'll get a guess in a minute. Otzi, yeah. Or
I'm glad I
Utsi.
used a thing that didn't give it away, apparently.
Oh, listen, I have, even from a young age, just ignored the news. So I'm sure I won't know what you're talking about the whole way through.
Here we go.
Excellent. This will be one check-in with Brandon every 3 or 4 minutes. You got it yet? No.
All right, so they wandered from the trail and they found themselves in a fairly remote area where they stumbled across a frozen body. The head and shoulders were mostly exposed, as well as some of the arms.
Was Otzi a Neanderthal?
No.
Oh.
Pretty close.
They called the authorities because they thought that they had found the remains of some unfortunate lost hiker. Because they looked...
Of a murder.
Murder! Everything was murder about you. Murder, murder, murder.
Changed.
Don't worry, listeners. I am also on the outside of these jokes.
That was from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
I watch Hot Fuzz.
I've watched it.
It's
my favorite
so
movie.
good. I love that movie.
Movies that I absolutely love and adore, I still only watch like once.
Really?
Yeah.
I watch regularly.
I will frequently put on Hot Fuzz when I'm taking a shower. Just so I can bathe in the jokes as I'm bathing my body.
All right, so they call the authorities, and eventually they dig up the full body of from the ice, and they start noticing some inconsistencies with what they originally thought was like a modern day hiker, because the body looked fairly flattened, but like the skin was like leathery, so they assumed it was not too old. But it was just it had kind of a decompressed, mummified look with that leathery skin. And then they noticed that he wasn't wearing anything that was remotely modern in any stretch of the imagination. And as they continued to dig up the body, they found more oddities. They found like bits of leather that didn't make any sense, and handmade rope, and a flint-bladed knife, and like a super ancient-looking copper-headed axe. And when you watch the video, it is so cringy because they have like hikers poles, and they're like flipping his little arms around, and they're like, "Get in there!" And you're like, "Oh my gosh!" When you because we know what it is, and so they're like, "Oh no, this might not be a hiker."
It's a YouTube influencer who is showing how to live with only ancient tools.
Yes.
I was thinking, do you think the police department was just so excited that they've been watching Bones religiously, and they were like, it's our turn now. Quick, get out there and look at this bone, poke those bones. That's what they do in Bones, right? And they were so excited, and some archaeologist wandered by or whatever. It was like, hey, that, and they're like, shut up, you.
Quiet, or there's going to be a second body up here.
This is our crime scene.
This is our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So they called in some professionals, and
they weren't the professionals.
They weren't the professionals. And they're like, oh, gadzooks, this guy's hecka old. So they brought him home as safely as they could, and they did some carbon dating. And it turns out he was like over 5,000 years old. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, dang, whoops. But luckily he survived that long, and he survived his digging moments. So anyways, they get this, and it turns out to be the oldest intact wet mummy, as they called it, remains that we've ever found. And it was just kind of a miracle that we had him. So the reason he didn't get washed down the mountain like everybody else is he happened to die like right in a little trench protected by big rocks on either side. Mm-hmm. And so instead of getting taken down with the flow of water as ice melted over the years, he got compacted by like 10 feet of ice and was just stuck in that ice, in that trench, till it melted enough that these hikers could find him. So some of the things that we learned about Otzi at the beginning is that he was 5'2", and surprisingly, he was around 45 years old, which was real old for that time. The life expectancy was like 35, so he was an oldie. But a goodie.
Or super evil. We'll never know.
Oh, yeah, that's not in his DNA. He was about 110 pounds, and he most likely had brown eyes and dark hair. He also, among other, like a myriad of diseases, he had Lyme disease.
Do you think the STD-22 was his license?
Otzi is like, this is it.
You pick up a lot in your 45 years.
So he had Lyme disease, and he had a predisposition for heart disease, which I thought was interesting because it's often looked at as like a modern thing, and he's definitely not a modern man. He had like gallstones and parasites in his intestines, in his colon.
So we had wet mummified parasites?
And they started moving when they thought.
That was not in any of the videos.
Dun, dun.
Release me.
Yeah. And then the scientist leaned down like an alien and goes, oh, what is that?
All right. So, additionally, we learned a lot of really interesting things about the time period at this time. So, first and foremost, he had a copper-headed axe, which, brought back the date that we thought that they had smithing, metallurgy abilities. And so that was a huge thing that we learned from Otzi. He also had like complex deerskin woven shoes that were stuffed with hay. He had a backpack that was very similar to like modern style backpacks, like with the little like roundy
top. The bottom had a leather shoe.
And a camelback.
And it said Jansport on it.
Yeah. It didn't have those parts, but it did have the like spine thing.
Oh, interesting.
Let's see. He also had a series of leather pouches that were sewn together around his waist, kind of like a fanny pack. And I was like,
a
utility belt.
Yeah, utility
belt.
Yeah.
Was
Make it a
Otzi.
fanny pack. My
Was
gosh.
Otzi, the prehistoric Batman.
He's the first Batman. He also had a hat and patchwork woven like leather pants, as well as his flint knife.
I want to make a joke, but it's really late. But he'd be like,
Do it.
I'm Pterodactyl Man. All right, continue.
That was good. He also had a 6-foot long bow, which I was like 6 feet.
Which is a foot taller than him.
Yeah, dang. That guy had muscles. He had a quiver, and he had arrows in various stages of construction. So I thought this was an interesting point, and maybe this is just like me, but the researchers that were talking about these like incomplete built arrows, they were tuzzing old Otzi. Because they were like, not very smart to walk around with unfinished arrows. Like, not going to help you survive there. And I was like, sir, first of all, rude. He's very dead. But secondly, I was like, I don't know if they've ever experienced this, but what if he's in the series of making new ones because he happened to use the ones that were already made? Because they're very sophisticatedly made. Like, they talked about how the flint arrowheads were like razor sharp, so you have to make the flint arrowheads, and then the tree materials that they use for the bow, for the freaking arrow shaft. Thank you.
The branches?
The tree material.
I'm like miming a long stick. I'm like, come on, help me, guys. They're just looking at me.
We just want to see how long it would take you
It's gonna take
to think of the word wood.
an arrow
The
shaft.
tree flesh.
The small. Anyways, the tree flesh that he used to make the shaft is a very specialized, like very specific materials. They grow really straight, and so because you can't just use whatever twig. And then it's connected by a sap that he used to connect the arrowhead, and they're all feather fletched, so you have to have the right feathers and it has to be fletched correctly. So it's not just like he fast traveled to the nearest merchant and got his arrows there. So if he is using them, then he has to also be making them. And it's not like he sits there and he uses all 12 and then is like, well, now I got to make 12 new.
I don't have arrows for a while. Making them.
Yeah. So maybe it's sort of a constant, you know.
Yeah, probably repairing and upkeep. You
Yeah.
know, maybe you can't get the arrowhead out or of something that you shot.
Yeah.
Or...
So I just thought it was rude of that researcher to be like, what a dummy. What an ancient historical dum-dum. And I disagree.
I mean, he survived like 2 standard deviations longer than anyone else. So
Yeah.
this guy's a genius for his time.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, that was my opinion on that. At the same time, the researchers believed that he had simply died in a snowstorm while traveling through the mountains, because they didn't see any like evidence that would have signified his death.
Other than the dozens of diseases he was riddled with.
Yeah, but like none of them were fatal. So he also had like tons of arthritis all over because he just was like in pain, but none of them were lethal. Also, when they did like a scan at the time, he had a bunch of broken bones, but there wasn't any like signs of healing on most of them. And so what they assumed was that that happened from being crushed by 10.
They were post-mortem injuries.
Yes.
I learned that from bones.
Yeah.
Post-mortem. But also, all of those breaks, even if he had them when he was alive, still wouldn't have been lethal breaks. So they didn't really have a reason for him to be dead other than, reasons that don't show in an autopsy. So that was like, after they first kind of got Otzi, a lot of the things that they discovered. And then they, kind of created a museum to him. They kept him in like a frozen box because if he thaws, then a lot of stuff will degrade.
And it would really smell
Yeah.
so bad.
Also, the parasites might come to life. And we couldn't have that.
Yeah.
We couldn't risk it.
It seems like something a scientist would absolutely risk.
Yeah.
Like, can we revive these parasites from 5,000 years ago?
Jurassic parasite. Do 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 do. Anyways. So fast forward 10 years to 2001, because we're continuing to study him. And a radiologist is looking over Otzi's x-rays and notices something that everyone thus far has missed. And in his shoulder blade, there is an arrowhead lodged. And he's like, I think he was murdered. Bum, bum, bum.
It is an episode of Bones.
So yeah, the game is afoot now. Also, I was watching all this and reading a bunch of stuff, and I was like, I hope that researcher feels so dumb that was like making fun of Otzi for not being smart. But to double check that he actually was murdered by this arrowhead and it wasn't just like hanging out, they found that the place that it had pierced was actually a major artery that would have been in his left arm, and so he would have bled out in less than 20 minutes. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was a kill shot.
Quite fatal.
Yeah. So then they were like, game's afoot, time to like up the ante on our research. So they did a few things to that, like, technology and all that kind of stuff had sort of advanced in the last 10 years. So the first thing they did was they called in this guy and they were like, hey, can you sculpt this for us so we can look at him later? And so they got a guy, and his name was, I lost it.
Was his parents hippies to name him I Lost It?
No. Oh, his name was Gary Staub.
Gary Staub.
It's Staab, and I was like, Gary Stab seems like a pretty trustworthy guy. Yeah. But he was actually really well known for recreating like ancient dead things from their bones, and so he's like created a bunch of stuff for museums. So they had him come in and he took just a ton of photographs of him, and it was kind of during this time with this more modern kind of look at Otzi. Originally I'd seen that he had these little marks on him, and they couldn't see exactly how many there were, but as they photographed him, they realized that Otzi had like 61 different tattoos on him, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a second. But I really quickly wanted to tell you that so this Gary Staub, he took all the photos, and then they were like, he has to meticulously reconstruct him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see this sculpture process. And they're like, by 3D printing it. And I was like, wah, wah, I'm not impressed. But it actually is. So he like 3D prints the base, and then he built on that, like all the fine details, and painted it. He actually did a fantastic job. It looked like he did an amazing job. So I was disappointed and then less disappointed. Anyways.
What a wild ride.
It was. For me, it was. Yeah. So, with this tattoos, he had 61 tattoos, and they're arranged in 19 different groups. And most of them are a series of lines and crosses, kind of all over his body. He has like lines around his wrist and like at his ankles and stuff like that. Excuse me. And tattoos have been used for centuries,
Well, apparently millennia.
Millennia, yeah. And so they weren't surprised that they had tattoos, or that he had tattoos, but they were really curious about what they meant and like how they were used. They also like did a analysis of the ink that it was, and it was carbon and silica, so they're like campfire charcoal mostly. So they had kind of 4 ideas of what it could be that he had these on there, a 5th from the internet. But the main one they thought was that it was medicinal, because they're all generally all near acupuncture points and all near where his like major arthritis was, because he was missing a lot of like cartilage in his knees and his hips and his back.
And that's where a lot, like, and his joints. And so that's where a lot of the tattoos are at. And also he had some where his gallbladder would be, and he had gallstones, and a few other places where they were like, this coincides with the different myriad of diseases he had.
I think what's funny, and this is probably not, it's just a funny thought that came to me, was that we jump at the conclusion that they're medicinal. But what if they caused all his problems?
He's like, dang it.
What's the opposite of medicinal? No, what stuck out to me is that, like, oh, they're near acupuncture points. I'm like, wasn't that invented in, like, China, like, thousands of years later?
Yeah.
Like, it's funny that they're like, oh, it's because it's by these acupuncture. Like, they don't know about Otzi didn't know about acupuncture.
Yeah.
Well, he got out a placard, which is very similar to Grandma Rosie's thing that shows where on the foot to rub for different.
And they're like,
healing
put it here.
properties. Do you remember? Did she ever show you that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're on the outside of this?
Yeah.
Is this what it feels like? To be on the inside of a joke?
You're like, who's Grandma Rosie? First of all. Dad's
Did
mom.
you guys have a whole nother grandma that you never told me about?
No. So,
It's
Dad's mom.
So yes, their like main hypothesis is that it was medicinal. Other guesses was that it was like simply decorative or symbolic, or that it could show like his skills, achievements, or status in
I
their
love
society.
the idea that it's symbolic. It's definitely symbolic.
Yeah,
That's like saying we think these tattoos might have been images of some kind. They may have been some kind of shape.
we're fairly sure.
Yeah,
Kind
man.
of represented something.
Yeah, I mean, they're really nailing it here. But yeah, the third would be like showing skills, achievements, or like their position in status in society.
Yeah.
So nobody suggested that they might just look cool AF?
No, that was
Yeah.
the internet. Yeah, that was that one.
It is no surprise that a prehistoric chopper motorcycle was found several yards down the mountain. It was just bones, though.
Yeah, it was just a
They
bone.
found the left forward fork and the rear tire.
But we're certain it was his
They had to
midlife
extrapolate
crisis.
it out that it was a
Hog.
V-twin.
Yeah. Yeah, so the internet's theory was that he was like in a midlife crisis. He was 45. You know, nobody else was living that long.
It was an end-of-life crisis for him.
Yeah.
Literally
end of life. But the last one that the scholars talked about generally was, it may have been related to like spiritual stuff. Anyways.
Sure, why not?
So that was kind of their like theories on that. So they continued to do more like deep diving.
So I have a lot of respect for... I'm cutting you off here.
No, you're good.
Because I have a lot of respect for archaeologists because what they do is difficult. But also, a lot of it is just super guesses.
Yeah.
Where, like, the list you just said, like, if you showed me any person today with any tattoo and said, could you make a list of what this tattoo might mean? I would be like, I don't know. Could be religious. Could be medicinal, sure. Maybe they just really like cats or whatever. You know, like, I would just make the exact same list.
Yeah.
Like, it's
That's where they're pulling their knowledge.
yeah, it almost feels like kind of pointless to be
Mm-hmm.
like, what does it mean? Well, it could mean all of these different things that are mutually exclusive. And like, yeah, it could mean anything.
Yeah.
I think one of the huge challenges of something like this is to not let modern sensibilities affect your guesses,
Yeah.
right? Because who knows? 5,000 years ago, people were so different.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, we have a lot of biases that color things completely differently, you know, than what we do. And like an example is they had those like Viking warrior skeletons that they found. And they were like, these Viking warriors were hardcore. You can see like where they had big cuts that healed. So they like survived big battles. And they thought of them as like these big manly warriors. And then later they did more testing and found out they were women. And so then the archaeologists were like, oh, well, they probably were just buried with these men. And they weren't warriors. I was like, wait a minute. Like a second ago, you were saying they were these like master warriors and had these big healed wounds. But then you found out they were women and you like completely changed your idea of what they were. And so it's that modern sensibility. Like now they've confirmed that many of the warriors, like Viking warriors that they found, are female. And so it turns out women fought it like just as often as men did in Viking times, and so it like took a long time to like readjust how they
Because we're bringing our modern prejudices.
Prejudices with it. So it is, like you said, it really is just guesswork, and it's so hard to get through all of our like biases to find the truth.
So like 2 podcasts ago, I did a like 30-minute political thing that got cut entirely. So now I can bring this up, and it's like the first time for all our listeners. Okay, but there's this super cool writer, Isaiah Berlin, who I talked about his political kind of side of things.
Okay.
But he was also
if you want this to make it in, you've got to.
I know. This is the anthropology part. Okay. Where he was talking, it's really like just an amazing essay that he wrote. But he was talking about how every culture is utterly unique, right? Mm-hmm. And the pressures on it and the like the context and all this stuff. So he pointed out that one of his examples was Homer couldn't have been written by, like Shakespeare, right? He couldn't have written Homer because the cultures were so very different. So we can read it and we can kind of understand it, right? Mm-hmm. But that culture that created it is gone, like, forever. Mm-hmm. It'll never come back. And as much as we like to try and think that we understand the past, and as much as we can understand the past, there's still a part of it that it's just gone forever, right? Yeah. And like it's the same, every era is like that, right? Mm-hmm. As much as we talk about the 90s being back, like the 90s are gone, and the unique music that came out of that era, or the unique films and stuff.
Well, even the unique experiences, because in the 90s, we didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet like we have it now. So there's no way for like kids now to behave the way that we did.
Yeah.
Because it's an entirely different environment.
And what's interesting is that the technological change is so rapid now that the era where you have a unique culture has been shortened, right? Mm-hmm. Otzi, probably people 100 years before him and 100 years after him all lived relatively the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there is a lot about his life that's even the same with ours, right? Like he had shoes.
Yeah.
In 5,000 years, we haven't improved upon shoes or backpacks or the Batman utility belt,
We're all using the same.
As you were talking about that, I was like, it's crazy that all this stuff that was 5,000 years ago, we're still like, it's the best thing to put on your feet is shoes. Like we haven't topped it, right?
Yeah.
So there is unique stuff, but like, yeah, for him, like that era where it was pretty similar was stretched out a long time. And now, thanks to technology, it's just compressed.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to me.
I think it's really interesting what you said about the eras are getting smaller. Because I've had conversations with my kids about like what it's like to try and be their parent right now. And like looking back on my childhood and trying to find things in my childhood that I can take and use to be their parent is very hard because it's so different. And I've, kind of lamented about that fact that like I wish that my prior experiences could be leveraged more in parenting them. Like you go back a few hundred years or whatever, if your last name was Fletcher, not only did, you didn't have to worry about like what you were going to do because your dad made arrows and you were going to make arrows and your kid was going to make arrows. And you had like this whole, like you had everything figured out. And maybe it wasn't great, but it also was like no stress. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think like my kids.
Different stress.
Yeah, sure. Different stress. But is it worse or better stress? I don't know. Like Lincoln, I can say first names, right?
Yeah.
So, Lincoln has shared with me, he's not super into school. It's not his favorite thing, right? Which I liked school. Well, I liked school fine when I was growing up. But one of the things that he told me was that he thought school was bad. He thought that it was a bad environment because it's just everybody is so stressed out and anxious, and you just go there and all share it and build on each other and just like and I was just like, this is not what I experienced at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We're living in a different state. I know there's a lot of variables that have gone into making his situation different than my situation, but I don't know. This shortening of eras, everything is changing so fast. It's hard to have like a foundation.
Yeah.
That's true. You guys want some more sociology?
I do.
Can you afford it?
We're on the last page.
Okay.
So I only have one page left. So we can
got
afford
some
it.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a German sociologist, George Simmel, who it's really hard to get his books. I really hope I'm remembering the right sociologist now. Anyway, the concept he invented was called the tragedy of culture. And he says there's objective culture and subjective culture. To super simplify this, basically, objective culture is what a society produces, and subjective culture is their ability to integrate what they produce into society, right? And the tragedy of culture is when objective culture outpaces subjective culture. So when what they produce can no longer be integrated into society as a whole. And he was obviously talking about this in like the Industrial Revolution. That was kind of one of the things that he studied. But basically the idea is that how can we, like the tragedy of culture basically is constant now. It's impossible to integrate all of the stuff that's created, all of the changes to how we live our life, right? Like just 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, when was the iPhone came out in 2007 or something, right? I think. So 20 years ago, smartphones weren't a thing, right? And today they are with you 100% of the time. Every single person beyond the age of 15 has a phone of some kind, right? A smartphone with access to everything that exists, all knowledge everywhere in the universe, right? Like that's a huge change, and 20 years is too short a time to adjust it. And really it was like over 5 years it just took over the world, right?
Yeah.
So this is something where what's kind of interesting is, okay, so a lot of people think Amish people are anti-technology, but really they're worried about changing technology and how that could affect the lives of themselves and their children and everything. So they have this thing where certain people will be given access to technology and then everyone else kind of observes it. And they see like, oh, this guy's got a table saw. We're going to see how this changes his life, his happiness, his outlook, his obviously spirituality is important to them, right? So and when you think about it, like, so they do that for every piece of technology. And when you think about how much technology comes out, that means it will take them 1,000 years to get up to the rotary phone or whatever, right? But like, it makes a certain amount of sense to not introduce something in your life until you know, like, okay, this is definitely helpful, right?
Yeah.
Or not introduce anything. So, like, I kind of admire them for that. They're cautious about, like, oh, okay, maybe this could be good or maybe this could be bad. Like, social media, I would say, is a net negative.
Yeah.
For the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Or they can skip right past wallpaper with arsenic in it.
Yeah, that's true. They can figure out, let's not use that arsenic wallpaper. But like, if we had a test group and had said, we're going to have this one city use social media, and then we were like, hey, guess what? All the teenagers are depressed all the time now. Maybe everyone else would have gone, let's not do Facebook.
Yeah.
Maybe Mark Zuckerberg isn't the guy to trust with our children's futures, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. We just go,
Yay!
everybody gets Facebook now.
Yeah.
Well, the question often with these technology companies is what can we do?
Yeah.
And not like what should we do?
They were too busy thinking how they could do it instead of if they should do it. Or whatever Malcolm
Thanks,
says.
Ian Malcolm.
Yeah.
What?
From
It's a quote
Jurassic,
from Jurassic
Park.
Park.
Oh, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I misquote it for sure.
Yeah.
But
They were too busy wondering if they could. They didn't stop to ask if they should or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyways.
Anyway, Otzi.
Let's see.
Back to
Back
Mark
to
Zuckerberg.
Otzi. Yeah. So anyways, they continue doing more research on Otzi and finding things. So one thing that they did is they thawed him enough to be able to do a more advanced autopsy, and they actually removed some of his stomach contents because he still had undigested stomach contents. And so one of the things that a few things they found. So he had wild ibex meat in his stomach, which is like a ram sort of thing. So he clearly hunted that because they didn't have.
You know what would have been the best product placement ever? if Taco Bell had hired ninjas to sneak in and put a beefy quesarito or whatever, and then they open him up and they're like, is this a beefy quesarito?
And then Taco Bell's like, gotcha! Yeah. No, it turns out it wasn't a beefy quesarito. It was there was wild ibex meat that was like jerky. And then they also found einkorn, which is einkorn wheat, which only came from farming. So he had both hunted food and farmed food in his system still. And they also found that there were layers of pollen that acted almost as like a GPS tracker for modern time, because the pollen was so specific to certain trees that in this terrain, they only have some like down at the base of the mountain, and then they only had the other type up high in the mountain. So he had at the bottom of this layer was the stuff that was at the bottom of the mountain. And then in the middle, he had that high mountain pollen. And then it showed within 48 hours, he went back down the mountain and then back up the mountain. Because he had that base pollen over that middle pollen, which was the high up stuff. And then obviously his body was found up high. So for whatever reason, he went up the mountain, back down the mountain, and then back up the mountain. And they weren't really sure why he did that. But...
and then they found one of his tattoos. Said, "I love the girl at the base of the mountain, but I hate her parents."
And they're like, that solves the mystery. We've peeled back the veil of reality. And so, and then they looked at his like muscular structure and that kind of stuff. And he was most likely not a farmer. Because he didn't have the muscle structure and the strain in his joints that indicated that. But he did have a lot of indicators that he was very transient. So they thought maybe he was a trader of sorts. And so he was, walking and traveling a lot possibly between settlements and acting as like a trader. And so they also, let's see. Oh yeah, and they also tracked his DNA, which I thought this was really interesting because they could pull his DNA and they're like, does he have any ancestors that are like alive? And they didn't find it. It wasn't like my ancestry, and they're like, you're Otzi's 47th great grandchild. But what they did find, because they found him technically on the Italy side of the Alps, and so they're like, he's probably connected to Italians, and the DNA was like, nope, not really. And so they're like, okay, maybe these other people like in this area, and the DNA was like, nope, not really. But he was most closely connected, like had most similar DNA to a very isolated island, the island of Sardinia. And they're like, that's interesting because that's not near where he was. But what they basically explained was most likely the island was isolated, and so there's a lot less intermixing.
So those genes are more apparent.
Yeah. Than in the other genes. So he had those genes. Jolines.
A very apt topic right now because Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
You told me we weren't getting paid.
Anyways, the genes weren't as intermixed as the other genes.
But let's talk about this.
we have a time limit today.
We still got
22 minutes.
That's plenty of time for me to go on a tirade. You know what's funny is my Sydney Sweetie ad take, I think, is different than you think it's going to be.
You know what? I don't know. I can only figure out.
You're afraid to say because you get frothing at the mouth, you dirty liberal.
I guess I assume that I feel like, you just handle it how I would handle it. It was like, dumb joke. And then move on. Do you have more to it than that?
Like, honestly, not really.
Anyways, so here's kind of where we come to the end to try and figure out the murder a little bit.
Yeah.
So these are the questions that they were asking, or that maybe I theorized, and then you guys can kind of sum it up. So, again, he had a lot of ailments, but none of them were the cause of death. It was definitely the arrow to the back. So you can't get shot in the back by yourself, especially with an arrow. So he was definitely murdered. But the big questions that they had was, why didn't the murderer take his very valuable copper axe? Were they after something else if he was a traitor? And did they not take it because the axe was maybe too identifiable, because it was such a high value item? They didn't want to be known as the person that killed Otzi. If they show up to settlements nearby and they're like, there's only 3 people in the world that have that axe, and Otzi was one of them. So was there some other dispute? Was it maybe, settlements were having a dispute or something like that? Or because he was so elderly, was it like a power grab? That kind of thing. These are some of my questions. So what do you guys...
Well, lucky for you, we're the ones
with
to
the
answer
answers.
them.
All right, so...
I mean, it's all hypothetical, obviously.
I'm very curious about what the common burial practices and stuff. Have we found any other corpses of a similar age? So we really don't know. Otzi is our one window.
Yeah, he's a very kind of singular... we have people from that time frame, but there's not... nothing that compares to him.
Yeah. I'm blown away that, in his era, he would have been ancient.
Yeah.
He would have been very old. And he's riddled with arthritis and stuff. And is still climbing mountains.
Yeah.
What does that say about who he was as a person? I think the tribal leadership or whatever, I think that's out.
Yeah.
I don't think that somebody with any kind of prestige would have been going up and down mountains as a 45-year-old.
That makes sense.
That's just everything we say is 100% guess.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking logically, probably not that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe the real answer is that it's not how he died that matters, but how he lived.
It's true. You make a good point.
I don't know. You could... I think that it's just too hard to guess. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but you've made numerous well-thought-out arguments about how culture doesn't live past, itself and changes. You just said there's no way that a tribal elder would be going up and down the mountain, but there's totally a chance that maybe that is a show of that he's still got it or whatever, right? That
True.
Well, remember in Egyptian culture, the new pharaoh is supposed to do that run where he goes and does a lap around his entire kingdom. It was his lifelong dream. He'd never actually been up a mountain his whole life. And he was like, this is it. This is the time. I'm going to go up this mountain.
And then he immediately gets shot in the back.
Yeah.
we told you not to come up here.
Oh, let's see. So anyways, now here's for the thing that I feel like you guys forgot about.
Oh.
What was the interwoven clue of what our next episode is going to be about? It's so obscure.
It's about Sydney Sweeney.
Interwoven clue about what the next episode will be about.
I spoke about the topic in this episode.
Tattoos.
Oh, nice job.
Booyah.
I was backpack making?
That would also be good. Or shoes.
Yeah, nope. You hit it on the head of the nail.
First try.
First try. Tattoos. So next time,
exciting.
we're going to talk about tattoos. Specifically, Yakuza tattoos.
Yakuza. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Are we going to have hits put out on us after that episode?
No,
After we
for sure
reveal their
not.
secrets.
No, because I'm getting this all from information from books and stuff.
Oh, okay, but check if any of the authors are dead.
Yeah, I
before
will.
you quote
I'll
them.
double check. But I have already started researching it, and it is so interesting. The history of tattoos in Japan and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely going to be a multi-parter.
Now, is it for religious purpose, acupuncture?
You know what? They actually know a lot more about
Medicinal, man. It's medicinal.
it. So yeah, I'm very excited. But thank you for
chatting with me about Otzi. And yeah, I just think it's, I couldn't help but think about like, oh my gosh, if they found my corpse 5,000 years later, what would they even think? And I'm glad that I wouldn't be there for it. Like, we don't know. Anyways, I don't have any tattoos. Maybe I need to get some tattoos.
That explains
That explains some things.
I liked art.
This is why my bone structure is the way it is. I did ceramics and super fun. I won't get tattoos to explain to people 5,000 years in the future what I did for my life.
Yeah.
They'll just have to guess.
We should record the episode while getting tattoos.
That's a horrible idea.
I hate needles.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh no.
No, thank you.
I don't.
I'll draw
Do you think
myself
really?
with a Sharpie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could have a Sharpie moment. Thanks for stopping by. Definitely do some art, and tattoos are definitely art, as well as like everything that he was made. Like all of the stuff, I didn't even get to really deep dive about like the hand stitching and all the bags, but we're out of time. Anyways, look up all the cool stuff that Otzi had with him, because it was really
that
cool.
It was a Jansport backpack.
It was. It was not. So go do some art. Don't do any crime. And bye.
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 Don't do me dirty like that.
Okay.
I feel like this whole episode was a trap.